Hey, this is Malika of Evanston Live TV, and we have with us, do I call you City Manager Erika Storlie or Interim City Manager Erika Storlie?
Right now it's Interim City Manager Erika Storlie, but I prefer just Erika.
Okay. The city is wondering, like, I had a ton of questions yesterday. So is she city manager? Is she interim? Like, what's going on? Everyone's like, what the hell is going on? So I said, I'm talking to her tomorrow. And first of all, let me say this. Thank you so much for your time. You've been I think people should know you have been very responsive. I mean, I sent you an email. I sent a passionate email about the $1 million from the federal government. I'm like, I'm glad we're taking care of the homeless, but gosh darn it, what about Middle Evanston, everybody else? And you answered me right away and explained everything else. And so I appreciate that. Thank you. Because I don't often get that from all the city officials around.
Well, it's good questions and questions that we need to ask because, it's important that we take care of all of our Evanston residents. And it seems like, this is a good question to ask. And honestly, I'm doing the best I can to answer all these questions that come in, but I by no means can get to all of them just because there's a lot. And, I'm just bombarded with the multitude of issues that are going on right now, and on top of the regular issues that we usually have. So there's definitely, more email in my inbox right now than I typically would like to have unmanaged, but I'm working at it every day.
Okay, well, I wanted the public to know the email that I had sent you in regards to that $1 million, just so you can explain it to everyone, because I'm sure that question has been asked and it's on everyone else's mind too. Because it's great you all, have taken care of the homeless, and the restaurants have taken care of the seniors. But then I was thinking, but what about everybody else in the middle? So I'm thinking $1 million, there's only 75,000 people in Evanston. So why can't 75,000 people get just $1,000 in their mailbox for the next 2 months just to help them out? I mean, $1,000 can help out a lot of people, and help everybody out in Evanston instead of it just seems like the homeless are getting helped, and then you have the administration is taking care of the rich. So it's like all the people in the middle are the ones who are really getting hit by COVID-19, where they were stable before COVID and now they're concerned about their livelihood and what it's going to look like for them going into 2021. So if you want to let everyone know how you responded, I mean, I totally understood, and I thank you for responding to me so quickly.
Yeah, so with the homeless allocation of money, we early on were under the understanding that congregate living facilities and homeless shelters and things like that, they were not going to be able to function in the same way that they did before the shelter in place order was put in place. So they no longer could have, and a lot of the resources and supports for the homeless were starting to close down just because the volunteer base was affected and things like that. But during the shelter in place order, our public health director issued a directive that homeless persons should be housed in a setting that they weren't, they were able to effectively be in their own setting or housing instead of being in a facility with 40 or more people very close to them. So, because of that directive from both the governor and the public health director, this is going to be an allowable expense for us to be reimbursed for under FEMA. So when we worked in collaboration with Connections for the Homeless to provide this housing, Connections provided a lot of the wraparound support. The city funded a portion of the hotel stays, and the homeless were housed for the duration of the stay-at-home order, which I think was 10 weeks, was just lifted last week. So that money that was expended, we have already applied for reimbursement from the federal government. And if we are approved, which we believe that we will be, we'll get 75% of those costs reimbursed, and then the other 25% we can seek reimbursement from other pass-through grants from the CARES Act or other grants that we're receiving from the state of Illinois. So we're pretty optimistic that we're going to receive 100% reimbursement for those costs. So that's why, that's just the explanation behind, certainly we would like to help as many people as we can. But in that particular instance, that was the reasoning and rationale behind why that funding was expended.
Okay. And when you all get the $1 million back, what's the plan for that million?
I mean, it just goes back into the general fund to replace the money that we already spent.
Okay.
So that was money that was already allocated towards other things that we had to take away. So it, right now it's just increasing our budget deficit. But once we get it back, basically the general fund will be made whole again in terms of what we spent on those direct costs.
Okay. Eric, I know the community is wanting to know, what are your plans for the Evanston community? What are your plans for the Black Evanston community? And what do you see are your biggest challenges? And if you take on this role, is it set for you to take on the position, or is it still in discussion? Because the community, all the conversations going around town is the community thought they were going to have a say in it. So they're wanting to know, is it set for you to step into that position already, or will they get a say in it? And I think it would be great if people knew what your vision is for Evanston as a whole, what your vision is for Black Evanston, and what do you see being the challenges taking on that role?
Sure. Well, there was a lot of questions there, so I'm going to start from the beginning of the process, and we get ahead of ourselves. So, there is an item on the agenda for Monday night, a resolution that was requested to be added to the agenda that would, for introduction. So, typically when we have something on the agenda, it's for introduction 1 week, and then 2 weeks later, it's for action. So there is a resolution on the agenda that is, essentially appointing me to be the city manager for introduction, so that if it passes, will be placed on the agenda again for the 22nd. And then if it passes then effectively, we'll move forward with me being named the city manager. So that's how the process part of it works. It seems like that's the direction that there's support to go forward with. And, I'm extremely humbled and grateful for the opportunity. I think that it's a tremendous responsibility, but it's also a tremendous opportunity. There's so many amazing things about Evanston. It's just one of the most incredible places in the world. But there's also a tremendous amount of work to do. I mean, there is a long list of issues that need to be addressed, and that I believe that we can actively work to make progress on. I think that there's been progress made over the last 150 plus years of Evanston history, but we have so much more to go. I mean, we have this tremendous potential that we haven't yet achieved, but I believe it's there. I believe we have all of the building blocks in place to make it happen, but we're not there yet. So I feel, like I said, very fortunate and very excited about the possibility to help be a part of that process of achieving our potential and making this an even better place, and a more equitable place, and a more vibrant place, and a more economically, financially sound, stable place, not just for the city, but for the residents that live here, and make sure that everybody that lives here has an opportunity to thrive and succeed, whatever that means for them. Because I realize that everybody has a different idea of what success is. But collectively, I think, we're always stronger than we are individually. So I look forward to being a part of that whole entire process. And it takes everybody to work at it. It's not just one person or one individual, one resident, one business. Like, we have to work at this all together. And that's, I think, where we're going to succeed is if we all are on the same page working towards some common goals. But you asked me some other questions in there, and I think that I remember some of them. I tried to write down one or two of them, but if I miss them, if you could just read them, that would be helpful.
The challenges that you see. So you have this vision of everyone pretty much what I hear you saying is you see there's so much potential in Evanston, and Evanston can be a place where everyone can be all right. Because there was a time period where Evanston was, I mean, Evanston is still one of the best places to live, most definitely compared to other cities. But it has changed over the years where people just can't afford to live here anymore. And it used to be, I mean, you know, a single mom could move here to Evanston with her children and buy a piece of property and send her kids to the best schools, and, you know, and everything be all right. And it's those same families right there who have lost their property.
Right.
Lost
Right.
their property. And what I hear you saying is your vision is you want everyone, you want that back, but I don't want to put words into your mouth, but that's what I heard you saying, everyone economically being sound and thriving. So what are your challenges in making that happen? Because clearly something went wrong where people weren't able to really thrive. Some people weren't able to thrive here anymore, and they had to move and buy property outside of Evanston.
Right. That just made me think of something that I wanted to just expound on, which is, you know, my perception and my vision of what the city manager's role is, you know, might be different from everybody else's definition or you know, how Evanston views the city manager position. You know, I've always viewed it as I implement the policies that the city council, you know, enacts, and my job is to take the direction and the leadership that they provide and put it into motion. And, you know, whatever that may be, there's obviously a wide depth and breadth of the various policies and procedures that they enact versus, you know, our day-to-day staff operations. So it's a very interesting role. It's very challenging because you have to, you know, make sure that day-to-day your staff are taken care of and they have the tools that they need to do their job, and that they have, you know, a sense of security and safety in the workplace, and all those day-to-day just, you know, making sure that our employees are taken care of. And but at the same time, then you have the community aspect of it, and the aspect of, you know, here is your city council who is elected by the residents to carry out, you know, what they think is best for the community and put into place, you know, the policies that are going to move us forward. And that, I think, is where there's just a really good, I can't think of the right word for it, but there's a good balance of, you know, the city council is the elected representatives, you know, making sure that everything that we're doing as a city, as a city as an employer, but also the city as, you know, the entirety of our lived experiences in this geographic area is what we want it to be. And if it's not, where are the shortcomings? And I think the city council has been really strong on, you know, establishing what those policy goals are. You know, affordable housing has been a huge issue for a long time, and we've made some progress on it, but we still have a lot of work left to do on it, because we're not the only ones facing this challenge of affordable housing. It's nationwide. The housing prices are just so incredibly high, and people have to spend so much of their monthly income just to have housing. And that, you know, that was not always the case. Like, and there's policies at the federal level, there's policies at the state level, and there's policies at the local level that are all combining to contribute to why that continues to be a challenge. But we have, you know, a lot of ideas and a lot of really smart, focused people working on it, not just on the city council, not just on the staff, but in the community. And that's really a great asset, is that we have so many passionate advocates that are willing to share their knowledge and volunteer to make sure that, you know, if the Affordable Housing Steering Committee, all of the work that's being done, we can actually make the progress that we want to make, or that we say we want to make, because there's so much still that we can do that we haven't yet achieved. And there's, you know, for every issue that I bring up, there is fortunately that engaged group of residents who are, you know, willing to share their knowledge, willing to share their expertise, willing to share their passion to help, you know, bridge all this together. You know, this educating the city council, educating the staff, educating the residents on, you know, what we could do, how we could make it better, and then helping to get us along that path to where we should be.
Okay, and this is such, it's probably, well, this is a time period that none of us have ever experienced in our lifetime. So this is a really heavy duty time period for you to step into this position. So I know some people are wondering, why in the world would she want to be city manager at a time like this, dealing with COVID? I mean, people can't even touch each other right now. Um, you know, health is an issue. I mean, you got a lot of issues on the table, and not to mention, you know, you and I were talking before we started recording. I've been just kind of in a depression about things that are just things that have been going on for years and ages, with the violence and the police brutality, the racism. So you are stepping into serious fire right now, to manage the city's budget, things that are going on. So I guess I want to ask you, like, have you thought for a second, do I really want this position? I mean, has it occurred to you? Because God, that's like fire. I don't think anybody wants your job right now.
That there was a lot of sleepless nights at the beginning of the pandemic where I would just lay awake, thinking about what we need to do. And at the beginning, we knew so little about what was, the entirety of the situation. And we didn't have testing, and we didn't have good data, and we didn't have a structure in place to deal with it. So there was a lot of nights where I just couldn't sleep. And I was just, so worried about how we're going to mitigate the damage that this virus is going to cause, and make sure that we, to the best of our ability, prevented loss of life, which is such a grave thing to think about on a daily basis. Like, we are dealing with people's lives, and that is not, any budget in the world. Like, you can think about how we're going to put $1 here and $1 there and make it add up to be a balanced budget. But at the end of the day, when people's lives are on the line, like, the whole picture changes. And yeah, it's certainly a time where, you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, oh, there's so much, the challenges are so great right now. The pandemic, the economy, all of the various racial issues, equity issues, like, the list goes on and on and on. And you can let it, take you down a little bit and think, oh my God, how are we going to get through this? But then you can also, look at it and say, and instead of, how is this going to hurt us, and how is this going to, how bad is it going to be? You can also turn it around and say, how do we get out of this? How do we make it better? How do we make sure that people are taken care of, and that, we get to live to see another day of sunshine, and someday we will be on the other side of this. I don't know when that will be. It will probably be a very long time from now. There's, any kind of talk of vaccines or anything like that is just so far down the road that our day-to-day lives, whenever we get back to whatever our new normal is, we're not getting back to the way things were. We're just not. Like, that's just not going to happen for a long time, because this virus is relentless. And that's, a super scary part of how we're operating day to day. But at the same time, like, the way that
Oh, the recording paused, Erica. The reception paused. So I don't know if you can hear me right now.
trying to prevent as much as we can from people getting sick.
Okay, we missed a little clip of what you had said. Your reception had paused a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
Repeat the end.
Okay, I was just summarizing how, just turning the lens around and looking at how people have come together, and how people have chipped in, and how there's so much energy and, just a collective force around trying to combat the effects of this pandemic, and trying to protect everybody, and trying to make sure people stay safe, so that we can, to the best of our ability, stop the spread of this disease. That's been really, for me personally, like, validating, because I know that we have an amazing staff. I know we have a great city council. I know we have a great resident, a number of residents who all want to see us thrive and not be, taken down by this virus. So there's, I've always seen people step up when the times are the toughest. And I saw that, with this, and that is very invigorating. So, I think the challenges are not small. This is not an easy position to do. But when we have the support of the residents and the staff and the council, we can do really hard things. And I believe that, and I think that we can not only do hard things, but excuse me, while we're doing it, we can lean on each other, we can support each other, we can help each other, and then, at the end of it, we're better for it.
Okay. And I think one of the concerns with the community, Wally Bopwitz, the former city manager, kind of had some people loved him and some people just, they felt he made a lot of decisions without talking to the community. And I know that you have worked closely with him, so people are wanting to know what part of Wally's work is the way he did things. Are you going to continue on, and what are you going to do differently from Wally?
Well, I think, one of the interesting things is that sometimes there's this comparison that, because I've worked here for 15 years or almost 16 years now, that, somehow I must be the same as him. And, like I'm a different person. I'm an individual. He's an individual. I respect him. I've worked here for a long time though, and I've worked under 3 different city managers. And so this comparison that, that I'm the same person that he is, it's just kind of like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, but I understand that it happens. And that, whether you liked him or you didn't like him or whatever, like, my job has always been to be a public servant and to serve the residents of Evanston. And I've done that since the day I started in 2004. And, regardless of who the city manager was at the time, that's my commitment to the residents has never changed. And I've always, done what I think is right and what I think, the decisions that I've been able to make. I've always put the residents first, thought about what's best for the community, and then made decisions that way. So, whether, like I said, whether or not you're on one side of the fence or the other with him as a city manager or any of the other city managers I've worked for, I just am my own person. I have a totally my own approach, and I am not, beholden to anybody at this point. I'm just trying to move forward and carve out a little niche of, if you knew me before, if you knew me after, I'm still the same person. So I don't know if that addressed your question, but I tried.
I think so. You're letting everyone know I'm an individual. I am not Wally Bopwitz. I work with him. I have respect. You have respect for all the prior city managers, but you're looking forward to creating your own legacy as city manager, as Erika Storlie, not Wally Bopwitz #2, Erika Storlie. You're trying to carve your own mark here in Evanston to do for the community. So did I hear you right? That's what I heard you saying.
Totally.
Okay. Well, I mean, I already see a difference because even though Wally would respond to me and we would meet off record, he would never come on Evanston Live TV. He was like, no, I will leave that to the aldermen. I will never come on your show. He said, I give the facts to the Tribune, the Round Table, and Evanston Now. So if you want the facts, I give it to them. And I'm like, but that's in print, and I know some city officials don't want to come on Evanston Live TV because they see it as a deposition, as a possible deposition later. But video doesn't, video doesn't lie. You can't say, well, I didn't say that. No, it's right there. So he would never, come on my show. So the fact that you're here, to me speaks that you're like, yeah, you could put me on video. Are you hearing me, Erica? Yes.
Okay, I'm hearing you, but I lost like maybe the last 10, 15 seconds. But what I mean, I heard you say what you said, most of what you said, and I think, I totally disagree. I think that, you provide a valuable public service. You're a public servant in your own right, and people can get their information from various sources, and not everybody is going to get it all from one source. And so everybody has, a role and responsibility to share information in the community and in a way that they feel is going to be most effective. And for every person, it's different. It's just like, trying to teach a kid how to read. Some kids learn by watching, some kids learn by doing, some kids learn by observing. Like, everybody has their own way that they like to receive communication. And, I think each one of those mediums is a valuable medium, and we need to support it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I said I wasn't going to keep you long. I know, me being a Black woman, especially right now, I think the Black community is really wanting to know, what is your vision for, because we are often, the Black agenda is often pushed off to the side, or there's no funding for this. I mean, like, we would love to have a school in the Fifth Ward. I know Henry Wilkins has really been pushing that. And Robin Ruth Simmons and the community have been pushing, definitely not pushing, but making happen reparations. And I think white America is starting to really wake up to see what we have really been up against. I mean, we've been talking about it for the longest, and for whatever reason, no one believed us. They thought we were whining, we were crying for nothing, But for some reason, with this George Floyd story, it's like a switch went off. Like, oh my God, the Black community has been just tortured. Just, what are we doing to them? Yeah. So I think our voices are finally being heard. So what is your vision for Black Evanston, and seeing as how many are having to leave Evanston right now? There was a time period when Evanston, Fifth Ward, they owned everything. They had their own stores, bank, hospital, they had everything. And I remember talking to Mayor Morton, and she was like, Malika, we had everything. Evanston was just the perfect place to be. And then it all just went away. And it's been a struggle ever since.
It's interesting you bring up Mayor Morton, because I've been thinking about her a lot lately. When I first started here, she was one of the first people to welcome me to the city, and I would see her all the time in the hallways and stuff. And just, one of the most intelligent, genuine, sweetest, kindest souls that I've ever met, and just had the total privilege to know her and to work with her for so many years before she retired. She was able to bring about a lot of unity, and there's so many Evanstonians who have that knack, but she was sort of like the mayor of Evanston, in addition to just being the soul of Evanston. And I talk about Hecky was the same, like, he's the soul of Evanston. And we have so much in front of us, so much work to do, so much progress to make. And it's hard to do it without these people who were like the stable bedrocks of our community. And now we have to take that torch, and we have to do it without them. But that doesn't mean that there's not just a whole bunch and a plethora of other Evanstonians who are carrying that torch as well, and are trying to fill those shoes, no matter how big they seem. So I think, in the one respect, it feels hard to do it without them, but at the same time, we have so many people willing to step up and not just ask, but demand that we change. And we have to. Like, there's too much at stake, and so many of our Black and brown brothers and sisters are hurting so much. And we can't just sit around and be like, oh well, what can we do? We just have to pick up the phone, pick up our feet, pick up everything and act. Like, it's all about action. And I think you're right. I think people are being heard finally for the trauma that's been experienced by them for so many decades. I mean, this isn't like something that just happened yesterday or 2 years ago or whatever. This has been, riots 50 years ago, and looking where we are, and we're still in the same place. Like, that's unacceptable. But I think that, especially in Evanston, we have so much opportunity to turn the tides and to change, to make it better, and to make progress on all of those issues, because we have all the pieces in place. And to see reparations, how much progress is being made there, like the only city in the country doing that. Like, I'm just blown away that we've gotten as far as we have on it, and that we're going to achieve what has been dreamed of for so long. Like, it's really amazing to be a part of it at this point in time, in the history of the country and the history of Evanston. So I think there's a lot of things to be hopeful about, even though we feel totally hopeless right now.
Mm-hmm. Will there be, speaking of Hecky, Hecky was like the godfather you would go to get his blessing. What do you think of this, Hecky? And he'd either let you know, that's a great idea, Malika, or what the hell is wrong with you, Malika? You got to get hip to the game. Let me tell you, and Mayor Morton the same way, and she would just give it to you straight, give it to you real. And they came with so much experience and wisdom. Wow. And, so yeah, I don't really know. I don't have that to go to anymore. And I'm sure, we have those who are in the making, the Heckies in the making, the Mayor Mortons in the making. I mean, Robin Ruth Simmons will one day be that godmother that everyone goes to, a Peter Braithwaite to one day be that, person to go to as they grow more into who they are. Will there be a special dedication or honor for Hecky coming up, Hecky Powell?
Yes, that is in the works. We don't really know yet, like, when we're going to be able to mass gather until we get to phase 4. But I think that, it's important for us to have that in person, to be able to share and celebrate in a way that's fitting to the person that he was. And that's going to require us to be in person. So whenever we get to phase 4 and we can have, gatherings of more than 50 people, that's going to be one of the first things we do.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Erika. It took us 5 minutes over. And I said I was going to keep you less than 30 minutes, and we went over. But thank you so much for coming on. I know you have a ton of work to get to, but thank you for coming on Evanston Live TV and giving us your time. I think the community is really wanting to hear from you, even though you've been here since 2004. But I don't think they have a really a sense of who Erika Storlie is. And I think letting them know you're your own individual. You are not Wally Bobkowitz #2. You are Erika Storlie, and you have your own vision. And I think it's important that the community know that you are responsive and you are about the community. So thank you so much for your time. And girl, my prayers are with you taking on this position at this time period.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. But, there's so much encouragement that I get from residents who, understand the breadth and depth of what we're dealing with, and are constantly giving me, words of advice and hope. And that I really appreciate that. So I thank you. I appreciate what you do for the community, and I hope you continue to do it for a long time to come.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you. And have a good day. Please be safe out there.
You too. Thank you.
Okay. All right. This is Malika, Evanston Live TV. And that was Erika Storlie. She, I'm still not sure if she's going to, I think she's going to be our new city manager. She's going to be our new city manager. And when I tell you all, it means something that she came on video to talk, because Wally Bobkowitz would never come on to answer any questions. And and that's his choice. That's just how he chose to deal. He was like, Malika, I'm not the media person. Talk to the alderman. But anytime you want to meet off record, definitely we can meet, which he would meet with me. But then I couldn't report on what we met because it was off record, behind closed doors. So I couldn't bring it to the people, which is what I always want to do. But we're in such a different time period right now, one none of us have ever been in with COVID-19, and I don't think anyone who wants the city manager position right now to come into a new city during a time period like this, and the climate right now is it's hot. It is very, very hot and uncertain, and we are truly in the unknown. So Erika Storlie has, absolutely been doing the best that she can, stepping into that position. But, I'm looking forward to seeing more of her work and what's to come. And you all stay tuned here, Evanston Live TV. I'm sure we will have her back on, and definitely you all feel free to send me questions when we will have her back on. And let's get, our questions answered. She seems more open to having a dialogue with the community and answering questions. And that means a lot to me. It means a lot to me because you do have those in local government who will not give you the time nor day. They don't care. They do not care. So thank you to Erika Storlie for coming on, and looking forward to having her back on. So you all, please be safe out there. I was ending most of my videos with definitely keeping your 6 feet, please, you all. We are still in a pandemic. Please keep your 6 feet distance, wear your mask when you leave the house, take your shoes off at the door so you're not tracking COVID-19 into the house. Take care of yourself. And, I know we're all going through a lot after this George Floyd situation. Many of us have dealt with it for ages. Our hearts are really dark and heavy on top of so many other things, livelihood and our health and so many other things going on because of this quarantine. But you all please take care of yourself and stay tuned here at Evanston Live TV. We have more guests coming on, amazing guests coming on, people doing awesome things in Evanston, making moves, sharing stories, and that's what we're about. Evanston Live TV, the voice of the people. Stay tuned for more.